Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Last night at a dinner with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, President Trump apparently hammered out the framework to a deal that would protect 800,000 illegal aliens now covered under DACA from being deported. They'll get to stay, and under current law, so will millions of their relatives. It would be a massive amnesty, maybe the biggest ever granted in American history. This is thrilling news for Democrats and for open borders advocates everywhere. In return for this concession, the president receives nothing. No reduction in overall immigration totals, no tightened restriction on foreign workers who take jobs from Americans, no E-Verify to prevent illegal immigrants from working under the table, no end to chain migration. The president isn't even getting a border wall, though he insisted he'll somehow get one later, possibly.
If Republicans aren't able to get something in 6 months, will you continue the DACA program on your own?
Well, we'll talk about that, but I think a deal will be made before 6 months.
So no relief for DACA recipients unless you get the wall? Is that what you're saying?
The wall, at some point, they're going to have to. They cannot obstruct the wall. The wall, to me, is vital. If I don't get the wall, then we will become the obstruction.
What has to come first, wall and agreement?
We have to have an understanding that whether it's in the budget or some other vehicle, in a fairly short period of time, the wall will be funded. Otherwise, we're not doing any deal.
Well, the president seems confident it'll all work out in the end, but there's no reason to be optimistic. The fate of DACA recipients is by far the best piece of leverage he has or ever will have. If he gives it away for free, none of his other immigration priorities, the priorities he ran on and won the presidency with, will even be considered. All those border security measures you keep hearing about, they're ridiculous. They mean nothing. They haven't worked, and in any case, they'll be rolled back instantly the next time a Democratic president wins. If this president doesn't get funding for a wall now, it will never be built, period. In Israel and in Hungary, walls have proven remarkably effective at controlling who crosses borders. And that's why Democrats oppose one on our border. Not because it won't work, but precisely because it will work. The Democratic Party has no interest in halting the flow of illegal immigrants, no matter how much it might hurt Americans who already live here. They've done the math. Democrats lost in 2016 because our middle class rejected them. That means they've got two options now. They can embrace the issues the middle class cares about, or they can import an entirely new electorate from the third world and change the demographics of the U.S. so completely they'll never lose again. They're going with the latter option. Yesterday, we told you about College Park, Maryland, where illegal immigrants now have the right to vote in local elections. But that's just the beginning of a much larger trend. We can say with total confidence that letting illegals vote everywhere in all elections will be a mainstream Democratic position within 5 years, if not much sooner. Anyone who opposes it will be called a racist. Bet money on it. The dividends of such a strategy are just too obvious. There are, by the way, ways to make a DACA compromise that might actually improve this country. Once given legal status, Dreamers will be eligible to legalize their family members through family reunification, meaning the amnesty will end up covering millions, not just a few 100,000. A real DACA compromise would explicitly ban this possibility and make it clear that legal status will only be offered to Dreamers and not any of their extended family. A real DACA compromise should also require that beneficiaries give up citizenship in all other countries. After all, the claim, you've heard it a lot, is that they deserve legalization because America is the only country they know. But don't count on any kind of deal like that from the current Republican leadership. As one of their colleagues told us just this morning, when Nancy Pelosi and Paul Ryan sit down to talk immigration, they aren't opponents negotiating, they are allies strategizing. In the mid-1990s, Congress came pretty close to passing legislation that would have included powerful barriers to illegal immigration and lower levels of legal immigration. Paul Ryan, then a staffer for Congressman Sam Brownback of Kansas, wrote a series of letters to other lawmakers that helped kill that bill. There's no reason to believe he's changed at all. Earlier this year, we had Speaker Ryan on this show, and he assured us the House would be working hard to fund the border wall. That was a lie, and not the only one the GOP leadership has told its voters. Nominally, Congress is controlled by Republicans, but on immigration, Democrats control the agenda. Why is that? Because Paul Ryan and many other corporate Republicans agree with them on every substantial point related to immigration. President Trump goes along with this because he wants a legislative victory badly, and his party is incapable of giving him one. This arrangement cannot last forever. A party this out of sync with its own voters will collapse and splinter. Republicans don't have to agree on every policy detail, obviously, but there ought to be some non-negotiable principles at the center of it all. Borders are real. Citizenship matters. America comes first. If you can't say any of that with a straight face and mean it and act on it, maybe you're in the wrong party. Congressman Tim Ryan is a Democrat. He represents Ohio, the Mahoning Valley, and he joins us tonight. Congressman, thanks for coming on.
Hi, Tucker. How are you?
I'm great. So you're upset about the possibility of DACA being canceled, and I know that you're an economic populist. I wonder how many of your voters woke up this morning in Youngstown and thought, I hope the key priority of Congress is to make sure more illegal immigrants get citizenship. Do you think a lot of them think that?
Well, first of all, Tucker, these are kids. These are kids who came here with family members. They did nothing wrong, and we're trying to solve a problem. Of course, we want to talk about jobs, but this is an immediate crisis that, quite frankly, the president created. He could have handled this in a much better way of just saying, let's figure out if he wants to go through the legislative process to formalize this. We could have done that without all the drama, but here we are, and we need to fix this problem. There's 800,000 kids. I mean, that's what we're talking about.
So
the kids that did nothing wrong.
Are we talking about 800,000 kids? What about their parents? What about their relatives? Would you support a compromise that prevents legalizing their relatives? I mean, I understand feeling sorry for a kid brought here at 2. I don't understand feeling sorry for his parents who brought him here. So do they get legalization too? And do their relatives in the country from which they came get legalization? Are you willing to say no?
Well, what my idea would be is first let's take care of the kids. They did nothing wrong. Let them come in. And then we have 11 million people here who are undocumented, who are in many ways contributing. And what I would say is let's figure out what we're going to do with them. I don't think we should round them up and throw them out of the country. I think we need to figure out how we get them to become citizens. And that may mean
what about their
paying
relatives?
a fine, hold on, Tucker, you asked me, paying a fine, paying back taxes, learning a language. Welcome to the United States of America. We'd love to have you. This country was built on immigration, and we need to make sure at the same time we're securing the border.
Okay,
we
so
need to make sure
now we're getting into talking points, and you're dodging my question, which is a very simple one. The 800,000
I just answered your question, Tucker. What are you talking about?
Here's the question. It's very simple. The 800,000 DACA recipients have parents. They have relatives in other countries. And under current law, all of those people, millions of people, would be eligible to come here as well and get work permits as well. That's a lot of people. It's not a small number of people. Do you support that or don't you support that? Under
the circumstances, as I said, that we try to keep these families together, pay a fine, pay back taxes, learn the language, and welcome to the United States of America. Okay. I mean, I don't know how many times you want me to say that.
No,
I think that
so
is
yes is the
a
answer.
very
then my question is, how can you be an economic populist? How can you say you care about wages when you're inviting poor people into the country to undercut the wages of Americans who are already working here or who don't have jobs? I don't understand. You seem to be working at cross purposes.
Because these poor people, many of them, are in the shadows, and they get taken advantage of by people who hire them and don't pay them the minimum wage, don't provide benefits, pension, all of these other things. So they're very susceptible to be taken advantage of. And Tucker, I know you care about human beings not being taken advantage of. If we all stick together here and say, look, we have an issue, let's fix it. Let's do it in a just way, in a compassionate way, starting with the kids, moving everyone else into the system, and independent analysis.
This is why I'm confused. Okay, so you're very spun up, and all Democrats and a lot of Republicans too are spun up about the inhumanity of what we're doing to these people here illegally, and their parents and their relatives still in other countries. I wonder why I don't see the same level of outrage, not just from you, because I think you actually talk about working Americans a lot, but from any of the leaders in your party. When was the last time Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer showed a similar level of moral outrage for the 95 million Americans not working, or the 50,000 who died of drug ODs last year? The emphasis seems to be on non-American citizens over American citizens. I don't think I'm imagining that. I bet you've noticed it.
Okay, let's just unwrap this a little bit here. First and foremost, it was Donald Trump who started this whole thing a few weeks ago. Things were moving along fine. These young people were protected. We were all in most people in the United States are in agreement.
No,
fine.
It was the state AGs
so
that come on, that's just not. Look, I'm not defending Trump. I disagree with what he did today, but you know as well as I think 13 state attorneys general sued the federal government, the executive, over this, saying it was unconstitutional. He had to deal with it. He didn't want to. I think he made the wrong choice. I'm not defending him, but what you're saying is wrong, and you know it's wrong. He had to deal with this because the executive order was unconstitutional. That's just true, and you know that.
Well, who knows what would have happened in the courts. That process was just starting. Trump is not afraid to get involved and initiate a discussion, even with members of his own party. So he could have talked to those attorney generals if he wanted to, or he could have just said, look, I'm not going to rescind it. Let's fix it. Let's make this a priority. Let's not scare the heck out of all these kids. And the fact of the matter is, I've been screaming about jobs. I'm still waiting for President Trump to initiate his jobs program that would benefit everybody. It's September, and he still hasn't initiated the $1 trillion infrastructure bill.
Okay, look, I agree with you, actually, in infrastructure. I think he should have started with it. I'm with you on that. But you can't look into the camera and say that giving millions of new people, poor people, work permits is going to raise the wages of Americans already here. It's just not, and you know it's not. So, like, why are we spending all this moral energy on this?
Well, as I said, the president started the whole thing. We're just trying to now sit down and fix a problem, and that's what the Democrats are trying to be a part of the solution here. But independent analysts have said that if we create a robust, comprehensive immigration reform system that is compassionate, we will boost the GDP by 1.2% increase. We will now have 11 million people paying more taxes, paying into Social Security, paying into Medicare, supporting these programs that everybody benefits from. It's pure economics.
Are we suspending supply and demand? The principle that if you have an overabundance of something, its value falls? Are we just going to kind of get rid of that, do you think? I mean, we'd need to in order for your plan to work, I think.
I don't even know if I understand your question, Tucker.
Okay, really quick. Okay. Why are you for the border wall? If you're for border security, why not build a wall?
We don't need one. Look, here's the problem that you guys keep wrapped around the axle on. Look, most people who are here overstay their visas. Okay? If you want to talk about drugs coming into the country, 90% of them come through ports of entry. We have enough technology today. Let's get a technological update here. And if we want to protect the border wall, we can do it with sensors and a variety of other things.
We don't new voters, and you know it.
This is not about that. You don't have to play the cynical card, Tucker.
I'm not playing cynical.
There's a way
I've watched this for 20 years. It's exactly what it's about. It's about bringing in new people.
So let's solve the problem. I think everybody's tired of talking about this for 20 years. We have 11 million people. Let's figure out a way to get them into the country.
Let's make them Democratic voters. I get it. Yeah. No, I get it. I see where we're going.
Well, hey,
I'm sure you'll win this argument.
Trump, wait a minute. Trump got more voters than Romney and Latino voters. This is a cross-party lines. Okay. If you look at the polling on DACA, it has broad bipartisan support.
You're right. We got to go, I'm being told. Thank you, Congressman, for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Tucker.